is your take on why the Fast and Furious franchise is as successful as it is? You know, there's a lot of sequels in Hollywood nowadays, but this one is, you know, 6, 7, 8, and that's quite a bit more. You know, most stop at 83.
Yeah. I think what's unique about this is it started off, when you really watch the first one, it's basically Point Break with cars, and I don't think they anticipated it being as huge as it was. And this being a business as it is, you want to capitalize on profit. But I really think the reason it resonates with so many people is because it has the most diverse cast when you really look at it, and it breaks a lot of stereotypes. I mean, in another movie, Sung Kang's character would probably be the tech guy, but in this one, the tech guy is ludicrous, like a black dude, you know, and you know, Sung Kang is like the cool guy. You know, they don't look at the fact that, oh, it's a black guy, it's an Asian guy, it's a white guy. It's just, these are your characters and this is what you are. And I think that's very real to people because, you know, stereotypes do exist, unfortunately, but this is a movie that really breaks a lot of them. And I really think that's why it has such international appeal.
And there's a lot of talk about race in regards to Hollywood right now, and it's kind of one of the really hot topics at the moment, with, you know, a lot of people getting upset over whitewashing and things like that. What do you think? I mean, not like you have all the answers, but what would you say needs to happen to try to like get things moving forward at a faster rate?
I'm trying to find a way to be politically correct in addressing this. But, you know, one thing I joked around with one day with a few friends of mine, and then it ended up being kind of a good idea, is in the NFL they have something called the Rudy Rule, which when interviewing a head coach, you have to interview a minority candidate. And I almost feel like you have to do that with casting, because I get it, there aren't, Aaron Sorkin said in an article that there aren't any Asian American stars. And that should be upsetting, but at the same time it's true, because there really aren't. But it's because the studio system will build up, you know, someone like a Leonardo DiCaprio, whom I admire very much, or, you know, God rest his soul, Paul Walker, or Vin Diesel. But I just think if you're gonna cast something like an Asian role, and I feel like, and I'm not saying it because I'm Asian, I just happen to be Asian talking about an Asian topic. If you're gonna have an Asian role like an Akira comic, you really should cast an Asian American actor. You know, just like when Bruce Lee was supposed to do Kung Fu, and they pushed him out because he was too Chinese looking, and they cast David Carradine to say he was like a quarter Chinese. I mean, Kung Fu is a very loved show, but at the same time, it could have been so much more had they just allowed it to be what it's supposed to be. And you know, and I would never try to direct a remake of Roots and cast Mel Gibson as the lead. That would be ridiculous. You know? So it's just, I'm trying to find a nice way. It's just when it comes down to that, you should just cast the ethnicities that they're supposed to be, but also not just cast Asians in Asian roles. I mean, I do like the fact that Perry White in Superman is a black guy now, but I think they should open it up to even more. It doesn't have to just be black and white. There's Hispanic, Asian, and whatever. It should be an equal opportunity thing, and I think the best person should just have it.
There's a lot of Asians and Asian Americans creating their own content now, and a lot of that is web-based. You know, what is your take on that whole thing? And then, of course, you're pursuing directing.
I'm one of those, actually, because I made this short film called Police Guys that released online a couple of years ago, which I made essentially as a joke, but it took off more than I thought it would. And I made that because I wasn't going to get that kind of role. I wasn't going to, you know, this is when I was still heavily pursuing acting. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to put myself in this thing and see what happens. And funny enough, that short film got me so much attention that we're actually making a feature version. Hopefully start shooting this fall. But I think that's a great luxury we have because of YouTube and Hulu and online content, and the fact that you can get these cameras that are so accessible and can shoot up to 4K. That's a great thing for future generations because you're not going to be at the mercy of a studio system, you know, because back then it's you either had 35mm film or you were screwed, and now it's get a Canon 5D or even shoot with your iPhone that shoots 1080p and you're good to go. So I think that's awesome, you know, and we're going to see a lot more cooler content because it's going to be more creative based.
And then you got, is it Hurricane Kid?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to mess up the title or something.
No, that's it. That's it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So can you tell us any like just preview of that and what that is?
It's a mixed martial arts movie that I wrote with my writing partners John Betancourt and Chris Simonian. And it started out as kind of like a Rocky story, and we wrote this script like 4 years ago, John and myself, and then Chris came on later. And it started out as like this Rocky story sort of thing, and then, you know, it just evolved into this father-son story that it is now. And, you know, when I look at movies like E.T., and people perceive it as, it's a movie about an alien that comes to Earth, the kid befriends the alien, and then he flies off, which it's not even about that. E.T.'s about divorce, and E.T.'s about being in a broken family, and how to deal with a broken family from the perspective of, you know, a young kid. And that's what I wanted with Hurricane Kid. It's perceived as a Rocky movie, like an MMA, you know, sports movie, but when you break it down, it's really about forgiveness, and it's about father-son relationships and the importance of that, because that is important.
Being that we're at, you know, a comic convention right now, what is some of your favorite nerd media?
I'm a huge Star Wars geek, you know, that's what I grew up with. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I guess not much has changed. But I love Star Wars, Back to the Future. I'm just a geek at heart, and I'm always going to be that geek. You know, because I never miss the DC movies that come out. You know, I'm all about Flash and Arrow. I mean, I love all that stuff. You know, I'm just all about it. So this is like nerdvana for me, basically.
And then, so you're very active on social media, you know, Twitter, and interacting with fans and all of that. Why is it that you take so much time to do that? It's not all actors do.
Because, you know, if people are going to take the time to actually tweet to me, which I'm not some super celebrity guy, so the fact that someone actually takes the time to say, hey, I love your work, that means a lot, and that should be reciprocated. I get it. I mean, I have friends of mine that have 3 million followers, and it's just to give people a perspective. When you have that many followers and that many people tweet you, it's nearly impossible to hit everybody back, because that's just how it is. But as long as I can respond to everybody, I will, and as long as people keep complimenting my work, then I'll always thank them for it. If I don't do it on Twitter, I'll definitely be thanking you through my good spirit in some way.
And then one final question, what are some projects that you would most like to do, like maybe whether it's acting or directing, like something that you have yet to really develop or get offered or pursue that maybe is like more so towards the top of your list?
Well, I mean, Fast and Furious 8 would be nice. I mean, if James Wan wants to throw me another bone, that'd be nice. But, you know, I would love to play Superman, because that's the first movie I ever saw was the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman. So, I mean, whether that'll happen or not, I don't know, but that would be really cool. I would love to direct a superhero movie, or I have this idea for like a Star Wars anthology series that they should do a Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina and do like a 12-part miniseries, like intersecting stories like a Pulp Fiction style about everything that happens in the Mos Eisley Cantina. So that would be really cool. For all my fellow Star Wars fans out there, I think I'd be the guy to do that. Just let's start trending that on Twitter. Hey, this is Jon Lee Brody at Las Vegas Comic Con, and you're watching MuseLed.com.